Throughout the last 200 years, the types of fish species in Utah Lake have shifted and changed drastically. Historically, Utah Lake was home to 13 native fish species, as listed here, the most numerous and abundant by far being the June sucker and the Bonneville cutthroat trout. The majority of these native species are no longer prevalent in the lake, but exist primarily in the tributaries. Two exceptions may be the Utah sucker and the June sucker, both of which are still found in the lake. I won't be talking much about the native species in this video, but if you are interested in learning more specifically about these native species, please check out my video on the 32 native species of Utah. Now, aside from the native species, there are many species of fish that have been introduced to Utah Lake. Some of these don't fall into the category of native or sport fish. For example, the fathead minnow, the golden shiner, and of course the one that we're all familiar with, the common carp. Carp unfortunately have a terrible negative impact on Utah Lake, and they actually make up 90% of the fish biomass in the lake, meaning that if you took all of the fish in the lake and put them on one giant scale, the carp would be responsible for 90% of that mass. I've had several experiences to work with the carp removal team on Utah Lake, and the sheer volume of carp is absolutely incredible. Carp pose a substantial threat to the ecosystem, and the removal of the species is of a high importance for the health of the lake. Now, switching gears a little, neither carp or the native species draw the attention of most anglers, as do sportfish. There are currently 13 sportfish species in Utah Lake, and over the next minute or two I'll go over each one of them. First, we have white bass, which is the most abundant sportfish species in Utah Lake. You can catch these fish by the hundreds, and they fight hard and taste good, making them one of the favorites of the lake. What I would consider to be the next common sport fish of the lake would be channel catfish. Channel catfish are one of the biggest sportfish species in the state, and because of this, they fight really hard, making them a desirable target for anglers. They're also a very simple fish to catch, not taking a lot of gear or expertise in fishing, so a lot of people try to target channel catfish. The second catfish species, black bullhead catfish, don't grow nearly as large as the channel catfish, and anglers don't care for this fish nearly as much. Yellow perch are highly popular to catch while ice fishing during the winter months as they come into the marinas. As far as eating fish from Utah Lake, this is another one of my favorites. Green sunfish are very abundant along all the shorelines of Utah Lake, but anglers don't really go after them because they're such a small fish. The sunfish's bigger cousin, the bluegill, is more sought after, but isn't very common, and it's kind of hard to come across in Utah Lake other than in the marinas. Black crappie is highly sought after, but lacks the population to make it a very common sport fish in Utah Lake. I personally have the best luck catching these in the winter time through the ice. Largemouth bass are most commonly found on the east side of the lake, where there's lots of reeds and cover. This is another fish that can be tricky to find if you don't know where to look. Walleye presents a very exciting catch in Utah Lake. While it is not too common, when you catch a walleye, it is often very big. There are 3 trout species that technically live in Utah Lake: the brown trout, the Bonneville cutthroat trout, and the rainbow trout, and all of these will most likely be found very near the tributaries where those fish are found. So for example, there's brown trout in the Provo River, and fishing near the mouth of Provo River in Utah Lake gives you more of a chance of finding a brown trout in Utah Lake. But other than this, I wouldn't count on finding any trout in the lake, as they are very sparse and don't do too well in those shallow, warm waters. The last fish on the list is actually a relatively recent introduction, and unfortunately it was introduced illegally. The fish is the northern pike, which was first detected in 2011. Despite being an incredible sport fish, the northern pike is actually posing a great threat to many of the fish in Utah Lake, and for that reason, we are asked to kill any northern pike that we catch. If you enjoyed this video or maybe learned something new, please give me a like and a subscribe. And if you have a favorite fish from this list, please comment below. I'd love to hear what fish species you guys enjoy catching. Thanks, and we'll see you on the next one.